Hey Orange County, if you're thinking of buying a home this year, especially a flipped property, you're not going to want to miss this episode because coming this summer, the rules about purchasing a flipped property are going to dramatically change and it's going to impact you as a buyer. So what are those changes and what is that new law? That's exactly what we're going to talk about on today's episode. So let's go ahead and get into it. So back in 2023, California passed a bunch of new housing bills, some of which we've already covered on this channel. But today I want to focus on one that has to do with flipped properties specifically. And this one is called Flipper Disclosure of Property Sold, or AB 968. So let's go ahead and cover exactly what the law is and how it might benefit you as a buyer. So basically, anybody that purchases a home after July 1st, 2024 of this year and sells it within 18 months, i.e. usually flippers, are going to need to disclose a lot more information when they sell the buyer the property. So they have to go over every single repair, alteration, modification, everything they've done to the property and disclose that to you in an itemized list. And on top of that, they now also have to give you all the contractors they used and the contact information for all those contractors, as well as any permits that were obtained while they were doing this work. Now, the only work that's excluded from this is any work that was done that's less than $500, but anything over $500 needs to be disclosed to the buyer in that itemized list. And if the seller does fail to disclose that information and the buyer later finds out of different repairs or alterations done to the property, that seller could be held liable and forced to compensate the buyer because they didn't disclose it. Okay, so why was this bill passed? Well, one of the biggest reasons is in California, when you purchase a flipped property, you really have no idea what you're going to get right now. There's some flippers out there on shoestring budgets that use the worst materials and cut corners and try to get as much profit out of the home as possible, and then the buyer moves in, and over the next couple years, more and more issues continue popping up because the work wasn't done the right way. And then there's a whole other set of flippers out there that actually do work the right way. They pull permits, they hire licensed contractors, the finishes, the fit are much better, and then buyers don't typically have as much issues down the line with those type of flips. Right now in California, the way the current disclosures work, oftentimes flippers are not incentivized to basically give you an entire update on everything they did to the property. Even though they should be, oftentimes they're leaving a lot of information out. So this is meant to hold flippers accountable, making sure that they're getting things permitted that need to be permitted, as well as using licensed contractors. So ideally, this means for you as a buyer that when you purchase a flip property after July of this year, you're hopefully going to have a much more consistent experience with the type of quality of workmanship done to those properties. Another big benefit for you as a buyer is you're going to have the contact information for the contractors that worked on the home. So if you do have issues or something does come up, you have someone to call. They are familiar with the work that was done, and it's going to be much easier to get that problem fixed. This is also great news for you as a buyer because you're going to get so much more information when you go to purchase a property, especially those flip properties out there, because there are already updated forms that are going to be rolling out in July. They're going to be attached to the seller's disclosures, which is basically a packet of paperwork the seller gives you and goes over everything they know about the property. That's going to be much more extensive for flippers. So you as a buyer are going to know a lot more about that property before you decide to go through and fully purchase the home. And then lastly, another benefit for you as a buyer is this is going to take some of those flippers out of the marketplace. The ones that were using poor quality workmanship, poor quality material, are going to have a much harder time making a profit because in most cases it's going to take a little bit longer to go through the flipping process now because again, you are now incentivized as a seller to pull permits because the buyers are going to see all information, and that takes a little bit more time. And those ones that are trying to go through the property, buy it, flip it, and put it back on the market a month or two later are probably not going to be in the industry as much anymore, especially in California moving forward, which means for you as a buyer, you're not competing with those flippers for those entry-level properties, which is the hottest market in Orange County right now. So hopefully this will give you a slightly better chance of getting into a home because you have a little bit less competition as well. So although I do have some problems with other California bills that have been passed around housing, this one specifically is great great news for the housing industry. The more disclosure you can give about a home for buyers, the better. It's just going to benefit buyers, giving them more information and giving them a much better understanding of the type of home they're purchasing, as well as overall increasing the quality of general flips that are happening in the marketplace. So really the only disadvantage that I see with this new law that goes into effect in July is that leading up to that, you might have a little bit more flipper activity going out trying to purchase homes before this July deadline hits, because again, if you purchase a home after that deadline, that's when those laws take effect. But if you purchase it beforehand, you're still in the same system. So it's a little bit easier to get away with non-licensed contractors, as well as not pulling as many permits. So you might see some activity pick up slightly over the next few months as flippers try to purchase properties. Well, it's a little bit more profitable for them. So what do you think about this new law? Overall, do you think this is a good thing for the real estate industry in California, or do you think this is government overreach? I'd love to hear your comments below. And if you are interested in learning more about the new laws that are taking effect come July 1st, especially everything going on with the real estate commission side of things that you've probably heard about in the news 100 times by now, make sure you check out this video right here, because I'll go over all that information and more. So until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you on the next show. Bye, everybody.